Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do express my appreciation to you for moving forward with this legislation to reauthorize the FAA. There have been countless short-term extensions, and the programs subject to this legislation currently expire on March 31st. It is of the utmost importance that we move forward on a long-term reauthorization in terms of providing stability in funding and certainty with respect to enhancing safety for the flying public. With this said, I cannot support the pending legislation. It had been my hope that I could. It had been my hope that I could at least be neutral, but there are two items in particular included in the pending measure which constitute a collective poke in my eyes. There is a provision in the bill before us on page 40 which extends airport improvement funding to the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Palau, yet we do not even own them. These are independent countries. At the same time, this legislation would phase out the Essential Air Service program for rural America, or at least that portion of rural America in the continental United States. Now, I do not begrudge the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, and Palau receiving airport improvement funds because that is being done as a result of our compacts of free association we have with these former U.S. trust territories in the Pacific. And I'm aware of this compact from my previous work as chairman of the Natural Resources Committee. What I do begrudge, however, is that while you seek to keep faith with those agreements, you are more than willing to break the promise to rural America right here at home. And that was made under the Airline Deregulation Act and the FAA reauthorization bills that followed. Essential Air Service is a vital lifeline between rural communities and the global network of commerce. Small and rural communities have grown up around the EAS, which directly supports local jobs, creates a flow of goods and commerce into and out of small towns, brings families together, and links 4 communities in my home state of West Virginia with other cities and towns around the country and around the world. Indeed, EAS provides these small rural airports with an engine of economic opportunity for many of these areas. I will continue to work with my colleagues in a bipartisan fashion to honor the promise that Congress has made to people in rural America, recognizing the job-protecting benefits of the EAS program and the value of this critical federal investment for rural communities. Another issue which has no business being in this bill seeks to overturn a ruling made by the National Mediation Board on fair union representation elections. The new rule did away with an unjust and undemocratic requirement under which a supermajority of airline and railroad workers had to vote in favor of union representation before a union could be certified as their bargaining representative. Non-votes were counted as no votes. The old rule was unfair and relied on the illogical notion that someone who did not vote must have intended to oppose unionization. The new rule, which this bill would overturn, says that the mediation board must count the votes among those employees who voted and must determine the will of the workers according to the yes and no votes actually cast. That is fair, and it should be the rule. Just as congressional and presidential elections turn on the majority of those who voted, union representation elections should reflect the will of the voters. Again, a provision to overturn that rule simply has no business being in the pending legislation. It has nothing to do with safety. It has nothing to do with improving our air transportation system, and it has nothing to do with making air service more efficient. So, Mr. Chairman, I do applaud you moving forward with the long-term FAA reauthorization bill. The 2 issues I have outlined, as well as others, such as inadequate funding levels, prevent me from supporting this particular measure today. And if I have time left, I yield it to our ranking member, Mr. Costello.